All right, Merry Christmas, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Daily Space Weather. Happy Christmas, season's greetings, happy whatever you want to say. Cheers. Lots of stuff to cover, including a new sunspot, 2754, more 6+ magnitude earthquakes, and lots of other things. So, no screwing around. smAsho is back. Looking at the sun on 171 angstroms. Looking at sunspot 2753 here. And this is 12 hours and 15 minutes of data just from Christmas. Some filaments down there in the southwest. And anyway, there's that sunspot 2753, and up here is 2754, another beta class sunspot. Beta class sunspots feature at least 2 umbrae of opposite polarities. So significant uptick in solar activity here, as well as in the radio flux. We'll get to it in a minute. Some filamentary activity over here also. And that is another region to keep an eye on. And when I say eye on, the pun is intentional. Here's the latest image from sunspot 2754, and it's pretty significant there. The trailing umbra hasn't really grown much since yesterday, but it's not evaporated either. So that one's going to be spending a lot of time in the Earth-facing zone. We should have a lot of time to analyze and watch the activity of that sunspot. And we have a very small umbra here trailing. And these are both cycle 25 sunspots, folks, which is good news, as we just recently set the space age record for sunspot-free days, only last week. Here's the animated version. Looking at sunspot 2753, and there's the last 12 hours and 15 minutes of that. Here's 2754, and let's see, anything going on there? It looks like the trailing umbrae are evaporating, but the lead umbra looks like it's still pretty strong. Well, it looks like it weakened a little bit in the past few hours. So 2 different sunspot groups popping up there like a solar Christmas present. Cheers. Have barely seen any X-ray flares, just a couple little blips above a B range, barely into a B range, little tiny X-ray flares out of those sunspots, which are reasonably small sunspots. And there's the GOES X-ray imager. I'm just going to rock that ahead. Not going to really dwell on that, as there's plenty of things to talk about. Here's a synoptic map. We don't always view this, but sometimes it's helpful if you want a quick idea of what Wes thinks is going on in the sun, at least. And I will link that in the description below the video if I remember. And thanks everybody tuning in to Twitch. By the way, everybody, please join me in wishing smAsh staff a speedy recovery. She's not feeling well. There are issues. And feel better, smAsh staff. Here's sunspot 2754 on HelioViewer, and we're going to fade out to the magnetic fields. And you can see those magnetic looping behaviors associated with the chromospherical plasma. Anyway, there are the fields, and you can see there are 2 fields there, the trailing one looking especially weak, and the forward one looking like it's weakening too, and this sunspot is setting as well. So, and let's do the same thing with 2753. There's the magnetic environment, and you can see that trailing umbra is quite strong, and it looks like it's a little stronger than it was yesterday. And there's the view, and let's just say if you saw something like that at that distance, it would be a little scary, because there's the Earth scale. And, that sunspot group is about, I don't know, 8 Earth diameters. So that one is not going anywhere yet, folks. It could grow, it could shrink, who knows? We'll be keeping an eye on it. 10.7 centimeter radial flux, as I said, is still at 73. So there's a line drawn in at 70. And welcome to cycle 25, as the solar minimum has kind of ended. KP index is at 1 currently, and we saw almost a full day. Let's see. So nearly a full day there, 21 hours of KP 0. And we did look at cosmic rays yesterday. If you want to look at cosmic rays, we always leave links to the network of cosmic ray stations. And I left this blank once because I just wanted to show you what this looks like if it's not populated, and sadly it populated. I wanted to show you what happens to the scales when there's no data on the graph. Let me just hit refresh, and we'll look at the real-time solar wind as we do most days. Thanks again for the coffee, Terry. By the way, I don't know if they call you Terry or Terrence, but oh man, we haven't gotten a grinder yet. Haven't gotten around to it. Been too busy, but we're going to be talking about coffee later too, by the way. Anyway, you can see the phi angle shifted all over the place over the past 12 hours. And you can see wild shifts in the phi angle. And no surprise there, as magnetic environments can suddenly change. So you can see the BTBZ got a bit wobbly there too. And again, 2.6 magnitude earthquakes kicked off. Solar wind density currently at 5.7 protons. Phi angle is still in the process of being in flux. We don't know what that's going to be. There's no forecast for that. It's currently around, I don't know, 260 degrees. Solar wind speed at 345 kilometers a second. So pretty weak activity there overall. And there's the data from ACE, looking quite similar to Discover. That's what we like to see. There's the GOES electron flux, and it is pretty in an average range here. And there are the relativistic electrons in a moderate range. Now we see continuing ionospheric anomalies, especially over the southern hemisphere, like a heavily charged up ionosphere here in the south and a heavily discharged ionosphere in the north. See these heavily discharged areas over South America as well as the South Pacific, and then sudden charge up, charge downs, as well as an anomalous reading down here on the prime meridian. So if you look down here north of Antarctica, you're going to see anomalous readings. You see how that blob just kind of ends right there in the prime meridian? It doesn't likely work that way, folks. So there's something going on with, who knows, magnetometers, satellites. Could be caused by an area of electron density, who knows. But for whatever reason, there's an anomalous reading down there. Again, you'll see it right there, an anomalous reading. So in any case, ionosphere still looking weird, especially over the South Pacific. Major charge disparities developing there. GOES magnetometer is looking like it's off to the races. Expecting this to probably level out pretty soon. And let's look at the Gong 2 data. There's the Gong 2. Gotta have it. And this environment could suddenly change now because there are sunspots on the solar disk. And nothing significant happening right now. Nothing forecastable, at least as far as I can tell. Here's the Geospace Magnetosphere movie. We try to play 4 hours of this each day. We see a more normal looking magnetosphere right now, actually. It's not quite as offset as it had been, as we are rather solidly in the South Pole oriented current sheet, which we showed you in the previous slide, the previous page there on the Gong 2 data, depicted in red. Anyway, there's the way we are modeling it to be affecting the magnetosphere. That's our best guess. And here's the University of Michigan geospace model for the ground magnetic perturbations. Delta B changes in the Earth's B field. Nothing too exciting there, although we do see the continued evidence of the South Pole creeping into the southern Indian Ocean, as well as 2 North Poles. So welcome to the magnetic excursion, and indeed the neo-renaissance. And the new moon. It's a Christmas new moon, folks. Talk about a dark night. It's lonely on this side of the solar system. What say you, Milky Way galaxy team? The moon is only 0.6% full. It's a dark, dark night. There's where stuff is in the solar system. The Earth is all alone on this side of the sun. And there's where things will be on New Year's Day, as Venus and Mercury are closing in. We made this video at 7:37. Did you view it live on Twitch? Anyway, this video originated on Twitch, twitch.tv/smAsho. And we're having a planetary pileup every day, where the Mars, the Moon, the Mercury, the Sun, the Saturn, the Venus, they all are rising along with Jupiter in the planetary pileup. Now, let's go to the earthquakes. We saw a 6+ magnitude in Western South America. Let's check out the whole list here. Here's another deep quake in Afghanistan. Not good news there. They saw a 6+ magnitude not a week ago, and that was a deep quake also. So the alert level for Afghanistan should not drop. Deep quake at Japan. And check that out. That 6 magnitude quake at Argentina coming in at 560 kilometers depth, the kind of depth we usually only see around Tonga, Samoa, places like that. So a 560 kilometer deep quake there in Argentina at a 6 magnitude. If that would have happened at the surface, that would have been like an 8 magnitude quake. Let's hope that doesn't occur, as that would be a very bad day. Let's see where it happened on the map. Doesn't look like a particularly populated area, but hard to say. I don't know much about South American geography. This one happening on the eastern side of the Andes. We also saw a 6+ magnitude quake off of Canada. We'll get to it in a minute. So let's get back on the list here. Oh, there were 2 6+ magnitude quakes in South America. So here's a deep quake at Chile. Here's a deep quake at Alaska. Here's a deep quake at Chile once again. And there's a 6+ magnitude at the surface at Colombia. So 3 6 magnitude earthquakes over the past 24 hours, folks. Correct me if I'm wrong in my counting, as I am still on the list. This one being felt significantly at Bogota. Populated areas are affected on this one for sure, and it happened at the surface. So we're expecting some damage there. Holiday blessings to Colombia. We hope everything gets rebuilt promptly and not too much damage gets taken. Many, many aftershocks happening there also, including this 5.8. Let me get up the list here and keep this video moving, as it's Christmas and we don't want to be talking about natural disasters all day. Jeez. Feel better, Colombia. And feel better, smAsh stAff. And feel better me, my knee feels shattered too. I don't know what's going on. It's pretty funky. Anyway, we see this 6.3 off of Vancouver Island, the second 6 magnitude quake in just a few days off of the coast of Canada. Not a particularly populated area, but I'm sure plenty of folks felt that one. Please leave a comment if so. And let me get back to the list here, as it is quite a list. Here's another deep quake in Alaska. Another deep quake in the Caribbean at Dominica. A deep quake at Japan. And that's it. Let's keep moving here. Looking at the pressure maps on windy.com, who has a great mobile app, by the way. Give yourself the Christmas present of downloading windy.com's mobile app. It could save your mobile ass. The pack animal. Anyway, I've animated that via the GFS forecast, and we're gonna pause that right about here, where things will be around this time on the 26th. And it's very, very late. We apologize for showing up so late today, folks. Had to make a Christmas card, and some things just can't be avoided. By the way, what are you doing for New Year's Eve? We're thinking about doing a live stream. And we will not schedule it. We'll just do it. Oh, man. Anyway, volcanoes today on Christmas. Let's see how much volcanic ash is being delivered. Mount Aso, flight level 5,000 there. Discrete emissions at Sanjiang Api, discrete enough to explode and produce an 8,000-foot ash plume. Takono exploding, flight level 7,000. Popocatépetl. New volcanic emissions just today, just an hour ago or so. About an hour ago. Reventador exploding, 16,000-foot ash plume there. And please do not pole vault Sabancaya. Don't even fly your sleigh over it, as there are continuous ash emissions. It's 6 days and 16 hours until New Year. What are you going to do? We ain't going out. We might do a live stream for hours. Maybe we'll even create our own ball to drop. Now, one thing I'm interested in about New Year's is where and when New Year's happens, right? Now, I'm very interested in being the last people in the world to see New Year's. Well, guess what? The way to do that is to go to Baker or Howland Island. Baker and Howland Island are the two places that experience New Year later than everybody else. So if you've had a great year, perhaps consider going to Baker Island is a better choice, as there are at least a couple of buildings there. I think it's completely uninhabited, by the way. No, maybe not. It looks like there are some folks there, as there are quite a few buildings. Man, oh man, that is one desolate spot, Baker, Baker Island. And if you're wondering where it is on the map, that ain't the right Baker Island. We're talking about the one in the Pacific Ocean. And I don't know if it's put me on the right place or not here. I don't think it did. Anyway, screw that, Apple Maps. Get out of here, Apple Maps. I think this is actually Baker Island. It's not exactly looking like a great vacation spot, folks. And but anyway, it would be interesting to pitch a tent there, as you'd be the last people in the world to see New Year. You'd have the latest New Year. Also, Howland Island, which looks like this. Not exactly a scenic vacation spot either, although it looks like it was used as perhaps an airstrip there, probably during World War II or something, as there's a perfectly straight line of sand going down the center of the island. Perhaps somebody crash landed and had to create an airstrip to take off again. Who knows? Looks like it's got a nice beach, though. Perhaps consider celebrating New Year's at Baker or Howland Island. We got a USA Today article about, were the predictions we made about climate change 20 years ago accurate? Well, the short answer is no, not even close. Now, I started studying climate change formally in about 1987 in my 8th grade earth science class, where I was told that carbon dioxide is the control knob of the Earth's temperature, which is nonsense. I was told that Florida is going to be underwater by the year 2000. About 2/3 of Florida would be in the ocean by then. Al Gore was wrong about that, too. And carbon dioxide is the greenhouse gas that scientists who don't know what they're talking about say is most responsible for global warming. And that's because they don't understand atmospheric physics at all. Now, they were right about the increase of carbon. So the increase went up, the carbon went up 15%, which caused plants to grow better and the planet to become greener. People don't even understand the way plants act as carbon sinks, because guess what, folks? Plants have a carbon footprint just like you. Plants, they don't just sequester carbon, they have to cellularly respirate, just like you do. And guess what cellular respiration requires? Glucose and oxygen. And guess what the byproduct is? It's carbon dioxide. That's right, plants exhale too. And I just don't even want to get into it. But let's look at the 2018 to 2019 season for snow. And that's snow mass balance, excluding mountains in the Northern Hemisphere. Now, what is that? Is that 4 standard deviations? It's at least 2 standard deviations, but it's more like 3.5 standard deviations above normal at its peak, which happened in March of this year, folks. And you can see the way it was way the heck off the high side of the graph. And when you see it on this side of the graph, that doesn't mean the snow's gone either, folks, because there's still, at that point, there's still, 1,800 gigatons of snow mass in the entire Northern Hemisphere. So let's go back to the current data. Now, I don't know if you're aware of any geology or anything like that, but the way glaciers form, folks, is it snows in the wintertime, and then in the summertime, the snow doesn't melt. We've seen this happen at solar minima before, such as the year without a summer. Now, I believe that was blamed on volcanic ash, and I don't want to get into a whole long discussion about the way climate cycles work, but we're 2 standard deviations above normal snow mass. And by the way, last year's snow mass moved the standard deviation for this year's graph. I don't know if you were aware, but because this blue area here, that's the 1982 to 2012 average. So I don't know. People don't understand. People don't seem to understand that snow goes with cold, not the hot. If you don't understand that, consider it a Christmas present. Now, the Arctic Sea thickness and volume is actually a little low right now. It's nothing to freak out about. It's slightly outside of the multi-decadal average here, the average from 2004 to 2013 is what's depicted in this light gray area. So the ice thickness is pretty low, but the snow is very high. And keep in mind, this is all frozen, folks. I mean, those purple parts, you've still got 1/2 meter of ice there. You know, that deep purple, that bright purple actually that's 1/2 meter of ice. And anyway, I'm not going to dwell on it. Just going to break out the US Doppler radar animation, courtesy of Weather Underground, and move on. One hell of an ice storm hitting Nebraska. Shout out to Glenn Carson. Merry Christmas to all, and to all. If you're driving, don't drink, and if you drink, don't drive. Just don't drive, period. How about that? And let's look at lightningmaps.org and see where the strikes are. Anyway, there's where they are. It looks like Australia's got a ton of lightning all around the entire coastline, practically. not something you're needing, is it, Kimberly? Here's a water vapor map, and we are getting inundated with hot air. It's going to be a warm New Year and the next several days here in the Northeast. It's going to be warm, warm, warm. 15 degrees C above normal type warm. Anyway, that's what's going on in the water vapor map. Let's take a look at the convergence over the Arkansas-Oklahoma border, as that is the area that I have selected for your daily weather pornography, where we help people struggle to understand atmospheric physics. Anyway, if you look at the Doppler radar map, and it's not telling you what you want to know about what's going to happen next with the weather, check out a water vapor map. This one happens to be the NASA GOES interactive weather satellite. And what we're looking at here, and this is a great example. Shout out to Andrew Hall. Check this one out. Look at the lines that are perpendicular to the motion of that water. So this is the dry air down here, depicted in orange and red. Orange and yellow, rather. And then this is the moister air in here, and you see all these lines developing that are perpendicular to the mode of travel? Those are called Hall currents, folks. Hall currents. These are the perpendicular currents that spill out of electrical fields, perpendicular to the flow of the current. So, put it this way. When we talk about wind currents, it's not just a bunch of air blowing around. These things are all electrical in nature. And don't even say anymore. pH. P.S. Please consider becoming a patron, as we need a lot more funding to accomplish our goals. And thanks, smAsh team. Don't go anywhere, as we've got bonus features such as the That Is an Ass and That Is a Hole in the Ground, the vulgarity-free section full of Christmas cheer and wine drinking, where we talk about whatever we want, including the slowest things in the world, government bureaucracies. Check out openthebooks.com. Sign up. Actually, donate to us instead of openthebooks.com. But anyway, openthebooks.com has got fantastic reports, similar to, for instance, Rand Paul's waste report, similar to debtclock.org, usdebtclock.org, that is. Now, the government is good at doing one thing, wasting lots and lots of resources. Here's the U.S. national debt. If you'd like to show your friends and foes, be my guest. Let's talk about things that are fast. The FA-18F is pretty fast. It goes over Mach 2, last I checked, which is like 1,500 miles an hour. Here's another thing that's fast. Me. I'm very fast at making memes. So check this one out. I saw this brilliant meme that somebody made, and I had to make my own meme out of their meme, because it says, if you rich in the mind, then you already worth a fortune. Because sometimes you got to meme the memes. Because some people suck at memeing. Some people can't meme at all, if you've noticed. Now, I have a huge library, and I'll make custom ones for you if you like. Just drop me a line at smAsho@gmail.com. I'll only charge about $80 an hour for graphic design work. Anyway, oh no! If you are rich in grammar, you could compose a coherent sentence. Dunked on. Dunked on. Dun dun. Speaking of dunked on, not a fan of Lance Armstrong. I don't know if you're aware. The guy who cheated his way through 7 Tours de France. I've made this link publicly available. If you'd like to call Lance Armstrong and Chris Carmichael douchebags online, I have a special place in my heart for Lance and Chris, the guys who told everybody for decades that their training and nutrition is just better than everybody else. That's why the math doesn't add up for how he goes up L'Alpe d'Huez faster than Marco Pantani on 4 grams of cocaine. Oh no. Folks, don't have a heart attack. Seriously, don't have a heart attack. And, I mention atherosclerosis every day. Well, atherosclerosis is the leading contributor to cardiovascular disease. It's the most correlated feature of cardiovascular disease, atherosclerosis. It's super bad for you. It could cause you to have a heart attack. So don't have a heart attack, folks. Now let's talk about coffee. Again, shout out to Terrence. Oh my gosh, this Peruvian smells so fantastic. Talk about coffee. How do you make yours? We use a French press. And I guess we're going to get a different kind of coffee maker now, even though we own 2 French presses, because of homocysteine. Yes, it's very bad for you. And now, I was aware of this article, Terrence. Thanks for sending it to me regardless. I decided to put up the one from Bicycling Magazine. Shout out to Bobby Lee, local cyclist, and multiple national and multi-time Olympian, who writes for Bicycling Magazine now. Perhaps he'll be getting rid of his French press too. As it turns out, coffee filters filter out homocysteine, something you really don't want. So we'll link to this article if you'd like to read that at the locally published Bicycling Magazine, where it's close enough to me that I can ride a bike to Bicycling Magazine. How do you like that? As the Lehigh Valley is one of the largest cycling meccas in the whole world. And I do mean the whole world, folks. If you think Paris is more serious about cycling than the Lehigh Valley is, I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. Or perhaps some oceanfront property in Arizona. We also left links to the article about facts about homocysteine. Basically, you don't want it. And the ways to combat it are with B vitamins and folic acid. So you want this out of your blood. You don't want it in your blood, as it is associated with all kinds of things. Heart attacks, strokes, seems to be associated with Alzheimer's disease. Perhaps this is why I'm such an idiot. Who knows? But it looks like I'm going to stop using a French press and start using a coffee filter to filter the homocysteine out of the coffee, as you want your levels to be as low as possible, below 10 to 12 nanomilliliter, I don't know, some crazy small measurement, micromoles per liter. Micromoles per liter, folks. So it looks like we may have to retire the French presses, or maybe we'll just start just pouring the coffee from the French press through a filter manually. I'm not exactly sure on this one, but homocysteine is not something you want in your bloodstream, and neither is Krampus. Now, we tried to watch the movie yesterday, and we barely got through it. I don't think we did get through it. We watched like half of it, put it on pause, and then failed to watch the rest. If you want to watch a Christmas horror movie, try Krampus the Reckoning. I thought it was pretty good a couple years ago when we watched it. And it looks a little cartoony, but keep in mind, folks, it's a demonic entity from hell. It's allowed to look a little cartoony, as it's able to do things like dematerialize. Thanks again, everybody viewing on Twitch. Please leave a comment. Yada, yada, yada. Hey, it's a Hubble Deep Field image. I don't know why I'm showing you that. By the way, if you enjoy the content, please don't forget to press like and subscribe on YouTube. And see this video? Well, I'm not telling you what it is. I haven't even told our patrons what it is. And if you search for it, for smAsh's Vortex, you ain't going to find it. Ain't is a word, and it is in the dictionary, by the way. I just figured I'd show you a little teaser about some classified technology going on in the smAsh tower. And yeah, we're not telling you what it is, because mum's the word on this one. If you'd like to hear about it, consider becoming a patron. The gold level is only $9.99 a month. What if you only paid doctors when you were healthy? Now, this is a practice that's done for real in Far Eastern countries such as China, Taiwan, Japan, Hong Kong. How about this? How about if you only pay doctors when you're healthy? Talk about a health maintenance plan. That seems like a pretty smart idea, wouldn't you say? This way, your doctor has financial incentive. Now, of course, it is going to encourage doctors to claim that people are cured when they're not, but nonetheless, this is a real thing in China, Taiwan, South Korea, North Korea, Japan, Vietnam, and Hong Kong. Paying your doctor when you're well as opposed to when you're sick. Think about that. What are the implications? What would it do to the U.S. healthcare system? Not sure what I think of this. I've known about it for ages, and we need some serious fixes. Now, one of the problems is that Americans rely on their employers for their health insurance, and in any case, seems like maybe a little bit of wisdom gleaned from the Eastern world. Let's talk about some unwise things in the Eastern world. Threatening to send a special Christmas present to the U.S. in the form of a missile test. Let's hope that's not what Kim Jong-un was talking about. But hey, if he launches another missile into the ocean, hey, whatever. If he's able to put a bow on it and maybe some pretty ribbon, maybe paint it up like a candy cane or something, I don't know. Hook it up. I really don't particularly care. Although launching a missile into the ocean is pollution, unlike carbon dioxide. Let's just move on. I hate when North Korea issues a warning because nobody's particularly scared. Now, Illinois and Chicago is famous for doing things incorrectly with giant government graft and massive corruption. It looks like on New Year's, they're going to have a special kind of celebration. Recreational pot becomes legal on New Year's Day in Illinois. So it should be an interesting New Year's Eve. Perhaps with less automobile crashes, because there'll be less drunks. Who knows? If you're wondering what I think about legalization of drugs, I think all drugs should be legal. Yes, all of them. All of them. Heroin, LSD, meth. I think they should all be legal. I think if you feel like growing cocaine in your house and you're able to do it, knock yourself out. Although you won't be able to knock yourself out. You'll be really keeping yourself up. Cocaine, a drug with practically zero side effects, except creating massive criminal enterprises associated with just the purification of the product, much less the exportation of the product. Now, we're going to be talking about the Parker Solar Probe, just not today, because there's too much stuff in the video already. And we are not forgetting about Gamera, which, by the way, is named after the Godzilla villain. I'm going to play the roar again. Shout out to Japanese scientists. Well done. Here's the roar from Gamera. At least I think it is. Why aren't you roaring, you son of a... Anyway, this scientific endeavor, really, Gamera is just a reference to the code. It's the code for the simulation of diverse magnetized plasma environments. And so we'll be taking a deeper look at this in the coming days and weeks, as there is a lot of science happening. Parker Solar Probe and a lot of other stuff. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We've got a couple of bonus features to come yet. By the way, if you haven't set yourself up an account at the forum, please do so. Head to smAshomash.org, which will direct you to the .com. And then right down here, there's a link to the newly unveiled smAsho forum. Just click on that. Set up yourself a login by clicking register. You'll have to verify with an email address. You know the routine. I've created a cosmology forum, Earth/geophysics, general science, the sun, a free-for-all forum, and a new users forum, which is just called the smAsho forum. So check that out, where we have discussions about anything and you won't be censored in any way. Thanks, patrons. You are partially responsible for funding all of that, as well as this lovely new mouse, which is color changing based on the DPI, which is pretty cool. I don't mess with DPI too much, although I got to install the software for this. I haven't even gotten around to doing that yet. So look for a lot of stuff coming in the year 2020, folks, as well as everything from game servers to more content, varied content, different lengths of clips, exclusive stuff on all kinds of different platforms, and so on. Look for some Christmas presents coming today in the form of digital media for you patrons at both the gold level and at the intro level. Whether you're sending us $1 a month or $9.99 a month, you will get a Christmas present regardless. And thanks smAsh team, everybody who views and leaves comments, etc. It's been a delightful year, and without your input, our station would not be what it is. Let's look at the latest image and colorized magnetogram of the local yellow dwarf, which is sporting 2 separate sunspot groups, both members of cycle 25, both at quite high latitudes, as well as other magnetic activity. Some filaments kicking off and stuff like that. And we're waiting for this to refresh. There is the latest. Here's 2754. And the trailing umbra is looking pretty weak there. The leading umbra a little stronger. Some more regions to watch here around the equator. But the main thing to watch, and it's going to be in view for a long time, is sunspot 2753. There's the magnetogram for that. And you can see the, it looks to me like the trailing umbra got a little weaker, but there are like 3 umbra that might be there now. So that's something to definitely keep an eye on throughout the day. And when I say eye on, the pun's intentional. We're going to show a 304 angstroms movie here in a minute, as well as a 94 angstroms. So don't go anywhere. Understand the distinction between your you-know-what and a hole in the ground as we go vulgarity-free. And let's just let that load, folks. I'll full screen the 304 angstroms view for you. Let that play for a moment. Drink some wine. That's 48 hours, by the way. And let's take a look at the 94 angstroms view as well here. There's a 94 angstroms view. Again, this one takes 5 times as many images. It takes 10 a minute instead of only 2 a minute, I believe. So there's a view of, and we do see some bright regions there along the solar equator also. Actually 3 bright regions there. So a lot more activity than we've been seeing. And there's a 304 angstroms view again. A bunch of filaments on the west. We don't see any sort of coronal mass ejections facing the Earth or anything like that. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in, folks. We are out. Happy Christmas, season's greetings, whatever. Love smAsh. That's me, otherwise known as Dan, and stAff. By the way, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. It'll never be now again. And may that solar wind be at your back. And may that atherosclerosis be absent from your veins. Merry Christmas.